Hello and welcome to the table, Baldurs Gate and DND friends. Grab your favorite drink, kick back and relax, because today we have a very special modded character build and also modded Druid Subclass to showcase. Today we're going to go through all 12 levels of the Circle of Wildfire Druid. Also, welcome back to old-time friends and subscribers. If you are new to the channel, the gist of what I do here is covering modded character builds and also specifically modded classes for Baldurs Gate 3 and going really in-depth by showcasing all 12 levels of the modded class itself. Side note, I do know some of you watching are really into multi-classing and also synergizing these modded classes with vanilla classes or also with other modded classes to really just bring out a very unique character build. However, certain videos like this one, I love just going through all 12 levels purely as the class itself, just to showcase you all the different features, but also as a favor and a huge thank you to the mod author. In this case, Havsglimt. Havsglimt is one of my personal favorite mod authors from the Baldurs Gate 3 mod nexus, and as a way to say thank you, I want to just make these in-depth videos for them and also to showcase to all of you the features, spells, or actions of their modded classes. Now, without further ado, let's take a look at what Havsglimt has to say for the description of the Circle of the Wildfire Druid, which, by the way, side note, this is an official D&D 5th edition subclass for the Druid. Havsglimt has really done their best effort of taking the game features and modifying them so that this class in and of itself is as close as possible to the actual tabletop class. The thing is, with Baldurs Gate 3 being a video game, not all of the features of the tabletop may be present with certain classes, but also at the same time, this is as close as possible as we can get to playing a Circle of Wildfire Druid and also other D&D 5th edition classes that were not included in the vanilla game, but this mod author here has really done the hard work of getting them to resemble the actual tabletop class. Druids within the Circle of Wildfire understand that destruction is sometimes the precursor of creation, such as when a forest fire promotes later growth. These druids bond with a primal spirit that harbors both destructive and creative power, allowing the druids to create controlled flames that burn away one thing, but give life to another. Now, based off of that description, you can definitely tell that this class tries to stick to the main theme of a druid being kind of like a support class, and in fact, some of the vanilla druid spells are present with this class. However, there are additional features and also a bit of flair to it as well, literally, with fire spells, fire abilities, and the main thing that really caught my attention with this class is the fact that it allows you to have a primal spirit, specifically a summon that fights alongside you. A lot of you who know me from my previous videos, such as the modded Warlock subclass of the Dread Overlord, know that I absolutely love summoner builds and also just having extra party members to fight alongside, foregoing more of the role of the main damage dealer and instead having spells and abilities that support these summons or these extra party members. But before we go into the specific build and features, if you're fans of talking shop about all things D&D, Baldur's Gate, or specifically character builds of both of those, I'd love to have you consider joining in and hitting the like and subscribe and bell icon notifications. It would really mean a lot to me as a creator, and also I'd love to hear your personal feedback on how I can better improve my commentary with these classes or specific things that you would like me to go more in depth on or to showcase more with these character builds. Your honest feedback and opinions really do matter to me. I honestly don't mind constructive criticism, but how I'm going to structure this video is to go over the first level build, go over all 12 levels and trying to go in depth and showcase the different abilities and spells available to you, and also going over specific gear that would help complement this class, provide a roleplay experience for you. Now, when it comes to character builds, I more so go for different kinds of flair, flavor, roleplay, like I said. Also not trying to be super min-maxy about it. I know some of you as viewers are really into min-maxing, and I'll somewhat dip into that realm of character building, but I try not to be super nitpicky or nitty-gritty about it. Also, for both newer viewers and regular viewers, let me know your personal character builds in the comments below, because I do want to create more viewer request builds, whether it's multi-classing and synergizing this class or other modded classes with vanilla classes, or vice versa, of really just mix matching the different modded classes together to just create wild combinations. The thing I love most about the D&D and Baldur's Gate community is sharing our different characters together and really bouncing ideas off of each other. So genuinely, please let me know in the comments your personal favorite character builds or builds that you would love to see me create on this specific channel. But without further ado, let's get into the first level of the build, all 12 levels, and then later on finishing up with the specific gear that will help complement your build. At first level, to fit this character build, you'll choose Tiefling, but not just any of the vanilla Tiefling subraces. I personally love Astrolite's Tiefling Compendium, which adds a whole load of Tiefling subraces from 5th edition D&D, and yes, these are technically lore friendly, such as the Fairy, which are essentially elves combined with base class Tieflings, and you actually get the best of both worlds here. The starting cantrip you'll have from the race itself of the Fairy is Dancing Lights, which is useful in later levels of the game when it comes to dungeon diving, specifically for very dimly lit areas, not just for yourself but for party members who may not or have limited dark vision. Just for class actions, you'll have Smoldering Claws as a melee based attack doing 3 to 6 damage plus 2 fire damage specifically. And, well, you won't be using this as much, but hey, it's a nice little flair and roleplay piece here. You'll also get the Fey Ancestry feature from your elf bloodline, which grants you saving throws against being charmed. For the cantrips here, for roleplay purposes, I decided to go with Control Flames, which you can choose to expand a fire surface or extinguish a fire, and also Produce Flame, which allows you to produce a flame for light, or absolutely throwing it and yeeting it at enemies to cause 1 to 8 fire damage. These two spells are from 5e spells, another mod that I personally love using for character builds. And yes, these aren't super overpowered, but like I said before, I'm mainly doing this for backstory purposes and really just to fit the theme of this class being essentially a firebender or fire summoner. For background, I personally went with Guild Artisan to gain the skills of Insight and Persuasion, and to complement those, when it comes to ability point allocation, most of your points should go into Wisdom, your casting modifier. Charisma you can leave at 10, but points that you'll take away from are Intelligence and Strength. You won't be really in melee combat as much, and Intelligence doesn't really matter too much to you as a druid. You'll put the rest of your points in Constitution and Dexterity. I decided to put the second highest amount of points into Dexterity specifically because I do like having that higher initiative and also chance to dodge too. You're not going to be super squishy as well, but hey, you're also not going to be one of those frontline druids. As for specific skill proficiencies, Animal Handling for roleplay purposes, Insight is also really good, either roleplay or specifically metagaming. Perception, it's always good for metagaming, and Persuasion at a respectable +2 for specific dialogue. For spells, there's not really much in terms of fitting the roleplay here. You can really choose whatever spells you personally want. You could even justify having healing spells with saying like, hey, I'm using my flames to cauterize wounds. But for the rest of your spells, I like having absorb elements to lessen the effect of flame spells in particular, but any other spells used against you. Fog Cloud, for roleplay and also metagame purposes, you can roleplay it as saying you're using a smoke screen or using smoke from your flames to blind and obscure enemies. And also Snare is pretty useful in the early game stages. Yes, I know it's not technically a flame spell, but also the fact that this class is partially vanilla druid too, you could say and justify that Snare is just part of your overall druid class. I personally really like it because having your enemies fall prone gives you a little bit of breathing room and also helps your summon out later down the line too. Alright friends, at second level with Circle of Wildfire Druid, we gain the spells of Burning Hands and also a better version of Cure Wounds, but the main feature that we gotta focus on here is Summon Wildfire Spirit, the thing that you're going to be using a lot in battle, your bread and butter companion. You can expend one use of your Wild Shape feature to summon your Wildfire Spirit rather than assuming beast form itself. The spirit appears in an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within 9 meters of you, and each creature within 3 meters of the spirit when it appears takes 2 to 12 fire damage. Now, this is going to be your summon that will level up with you along the way, and also that you're going to want to invest some spells into in order to provide them some support. The prepared spells you can keep pretty much all the same here. I would personally especially keep Cure Wounds for your creature and also Good Berry as well for, yes, additional healing. At level 3, we gain a better version of Flaming Sphere. Summon a Flaming Sphere that damages nearby enemies and objects. You can move the sphere emitting a bright light, and also Scorching Ray, 6 to 36 damage, hurling 3 rays of fire. Both pretty good respectable spells, but when it comes to prepared spells, the ones that I personally like choosing to support our summon a little bit better. Heat Metal allows us to make enemies drop their weapons or also deal fire damage to them if they're wearing metal armor. And also Hold Person, keeping an enemy still. Also, enemies that are within 3 meters of our summon when they attack are always dealt critical hits. If you want to trade out one or both of those for Healing Spirit as well, calling for a Nature Spirit to soothe the wounded, a creature within 2 meters of the spirit is healed 1 to 6 points. You could probably change out one of your other beginning spells for that to provide better support for your summon. When it comes to level 4, the cantrip gain here, I would personally choose Create Bonfire to keep with the fire theme class. Create a bonfire that burns creatures in the bonfire space when casting the spell or when the character starts or ends its turn in the space. Now, you may think that doesn't seem like really much or worth it, as enemies can simply just run out of the bonfire. But when paired with the Hold Person spell, it can definitely be devastating for them. And also the fact that they're burning inside it, plus also taking damage from your summon, it's going to be a real bad time for them. The spells you can keep pretty much the same here, but the additional spell, I personally would like to use Spike Growth. Shape a piece of ground into hard spikes, movement is halved, and also a creature walking on the spikes takes 2 to 8 piercing damage for every 1.5 meter it moves. Now, this paired with Hold Person and also with Bonfire, it's just a recipe for pain for a very individual enemy. But also, it's a nice way of literally slowing down enemies trying to close the distance and get to you. Now, the feat choice here, you could definitely choose a different one if you so choose, but personally, I like using Tough, as you really want to get this as early as possible. Maximum hit points increases 2 for every level you gain. It's just a nice little safety net for you, and just granting you extra health in general as not necessarily a frontline caster, but hey, you may find yourself in situations where you're fighting side by side with your summon. At level 5, most of the features gained here are strictly vanilla-based druid like plant growth and revivify, plus also wild strike, additional attack after making an unarmed strike while in wild shape form. We also get a bonus spell here from our Fey ancestry, Misty Step. Surrounded by silver mist, you teleport to an unoccupied space you can see. Nice little get out of jail free card or escaping really bad engagements. And personally, for the spell selection here, I like protection from energy. Touch a creature to grant a resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. This is a nice complementary spell to better help your summoned creature out. And hey, you could give it protection against cold just like yourself, so you have a nice little pair or dynamic duo going on. At level 6, we gain a specific subclass feature called Enhanced Bond. Whenever you cast a spell that deals fire damage or restores hit points to your wildfire spirit that is summoned, you gain a 1d8 bonus to 1 damage or healing roll of the spell. Now, that's the thing here too, is it's a really nice synergistic thing between you and your summon. And to pick a spell that would best complement that feature too, Warden of Vitality. While this aura lasts, you can cast Restore Vitality as a bonus action to heal yourself or nearby allies. Now, that's the thing too, is with the Restore Vitality, 2 to 12 healing, but also stacking on top of the 1d8 healing that the Enhanced Bond features. It's a really good way to keep the energy and keep you and your summon sustained in combat for longer. At level 7, we gain the spells of Aura of Life. Each non-hostile creature in the aura, including you, has resistance to necrotic damage. Its hit point maximum can't be reduced. In addition, a downed creature regains 1 hit points when starting its turn in the aura. We also gain a better version of Fire Shield, conditional with fire damage and resistance to cold damage as well. But the spells that I do want to focus on here, and this is a little bit of a controversy just because we'll be replacing Spiky Growth with Summon Minor Elemental and also the extra spell slot. I also decided to choose Summon Greater Elemental, calling forth spirits of whatever element we chose. I personally decided to pick these 2 spells at this level because of the fact, hey, more fire summons, and also, as I said in the beginning, some of you know me as a player who really just likes having even more party members in the battlefield with me, and thus giving us even more battlefield control or different strategies as well. And yes, overwhelming enemies with elementals that dish out more fire damage. In a sense, it's almost like increasing the damage potential. At level 8 with this build, the additional spell slot that I would personally choose is Wall of Fire, again, keeping with the fire theme build, and also the fact that it can have the potential to do a whopping 40 damage, and the fact that it conjures a wall of fire, thus giving you some battlefield control, or you could use it to potentially funnel enemies to a specific area or create a kill zone too. Now, for the feat here, this is a bit of a controversial one. I am also using an additional mod that grants different kinds of feat, such as the Meta Magic Adept. You've learned how to exert your will on your spells to alter how they function. You learn 2 meta magic options of your choice from the Sorcerer class. You can only use 1 meta magic option on a spell when you cast it unless the option says otherwise. You gain 2 additional sorcery points to spend on meta magic. And for the specific ones here, I personally like Distant Spell, increase the range of spells by 50%. Melee spells get a range of 9 meters, only costing 1 sorcery point if you decide to use this. And also the fact too that like it increases the range of spells it by 50%. It's going to allow you to essentially be a sniper caster and keep the distance from enemies from trying to close the distance on you. And personally, I like using subtle spell cast spells while silent. This is really situational, as if you get into combat with a very pissy sorcerer that decides to silence you or to limit how much magic damage you can dish out. This is kind of like that get out of jail free card. At level 9, we gain additional spells of Flame Strike, dealing 10 to 60 fire damage and radiant damage, making a pillar of divine fire roar down from the heavens like the wrath of affronted angels, and also mass cure wounds. Basically just a massive AoE healing spell of either 6 to 27 healing that heals you and nearby allies. I like these little complementary spells to each other, one for pure outright damage and also one for pure outright support for you and all of your summons, which, yes, at this level I personally like choosing Conjure Elemental adding an additional elemental to our Fire Nation army here. This is just a little bit ridiculous and overpowered. If you want to choose a different spell at this level, by all means go for it, but I am going to be harping my horn here a little bit again. I do love just flooding the battlefield with loads upon loads of summons. In fact, side note here too, it's almost like you're like a Daedra worshiper at this point, or a Daedric summoner from the Elder Scrolls, which, by the way, I would like to have more videos and live streams of in the future. At level 10, the main feature of the specific subclass that I want to focus on here is Cauterizing Flames. Make a harmless spectral flame spring forth from a corpse which flickers there for 1 minute. When a creature enters that space, the spectral flame is extinguished, healing it for 2 to 20 plus 5 hit points if it is an ally, or dealing 7 to 25 fire damage if it was an enemy. Now that's the thing here too, is this is really useful, but at the same time situational here too. Situational in terms of corpse positioning, and also making sure that your summon or summons stand in that flame, and having the right timing here too. For cantrip, go ahead and choose whichever you want. I personally would choose resistance to provide our summons with a bonus to saving throws. And for the spells here, I personally would choose planar binding, target an otherworldly creature, attaching its conscience to your own, and having it fight alongside you as an ally. At level 11, you can choose whichever spell you want here. Personally, for me, to fit the role of support for myself, the party, and also the summons, I like Hero's Feast. You and everyone around can't be poisoned, diseased, or frightened. HP will increase and make wisdom saves with advantage. It's just a nice overall good feel, and also major support to everyone that they gain benefits from. At level 12, go ahead and choose whichever spell you want here. You can justify Sunbeam as saying that it is technically a fire spell if you really want to stretch it that far, dealing 6 to 48 radiant damage and blinding all creatures in its path. For the feat here, choose whichever one you want. Fey Touch Wisdom, which is an additional feat granted by a mod, allows us to choose a spell, gain a +1 to wisdom, rounding it out to a respectable 18. Now for the spell here, any of these could really be useful to you. I personally like Dissonant Whispers of dealing 3 to 18 psychic damage, frighten a creature, having disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and also the fact that they can't move keeps them in place for your summons to deal additional damage. That's a good feat to have there. But also Mage Slayer can be very good here too. When a creature casts a spell within melee range of you specifically, you have advantage on any saving throw against it, and you have a reaction to immediately making a retaliatory attack against the caster. Enemies you hit also have disadvantage on concentration saving throws, so this is like a screw you to all of the mage enemies out there and allowing you to have magical dominance. I personally would like that one, but also if you have other choices or different suggestions, please let me know in the comments here. Alright friends, when it comes to specific gear and equipment here, it can be very subjective. I do encourage all of you to write in the comments if you have different alternatives or better suggestions here, especially since we are casting. Let me know as well if there's any ideas that you like when it comes to roleplay or specifically min-maxing. But when it comes to our specific fire build and summoner build, I like using the Pyro Quickness hat as our headpiece, granting us fiery return. When you deal fire damage with a leveled spell, you burn yourself and gain additional bonus action this round. Now, the burning ourselves part is very risk rewardy, but also I really do think the bonus action is well worth it. And also getting ahead of myself here, Ring of Regeneration is a nice offset to the burning damage to ourselves. At the beginning of our turn, we get 1 to 4 hit points back. It may not be much, but like I said, I personally think it offsets burning damage just by enough. And also, speaking of burning damage, Cindermoth Cloak grants us Flaming Shroud. A creature that damages the wearer within 2 meters receives burning, so if the enemy does close a distance on you, this is your way of punishing them back and saying, hey, you might have gotten a hit on me, but I'm going to still get something out of this. For the specific armor piece here, Flame Enthralled armor is something that I really love the look of, plus also the fact that it grants us so many different bonuses here too, such as a +2 bonus to initiative rolls, Endurance by Fire, granting us resistance to fire damage, and a +2 bonus to saving throws. We do get disadvantage on stealth checks, but Fire Shield is a really nice trade-off for that too. Dealing 2d16 damage, it grants us an area of attack spell, and also we can gain only half damage to cold damage in particular, and also dealing 2d16 fire damage to anyone who hits you with a melee attack. So the fact that it'll stack up with burning as well, it's kind of like a near get out of jail free card, and the fact that this will last 10 turns as well, it's a very long time. Now, I know this is more of a late game armor. If you need something earlier game, Obsidian Lace Robe is a good alternative. Even though with only 10 armor class, you still get Flaming Revenge specifically against enemy casters. With a saving throw against a foe spell, deal 3 to 6 fire damage to them, and also just like the armor itself, it will grant us flaming resistance too. Now these gloves here, these are specific for our summon ability, Demon Spirit Aura. The wearer's summoned creature has resistance to all damage except psychic damage. I personally think it's definitely worth it, even though at the start of the summoned creature's turn, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be driven mad. Now, you might be a little bit concerned about the madness here, but the fact that it specifically states it will attack the nearest creature other than the caster themselves, I personally think it's worth it. In my playstyle, I almost want to say that this class can solo most encounters, or if you want to play very strategically, just don't have any of your other party members around your summon. Helldusk boots are a really nice flavor here too. Steadfast, you can't be forcibly moved by a foe's spells or actions, and you ignore the effects of difficult terrain. Infernal Evasion, when you fail a saving throw, you may use your reaction to succeed instead. But the main feature I like here is Hellcrawler. Teleport to an area and deal 2 to 16 fire damage where you land. The impact blast spreads in a 3-meter zone. That would be, I like the idea of using Hellcrawler and pairing it with the Flame Shield. Just the fact that you literally bombard onto a group of enemies, and then also using a bonus action to unleash massive amounts of fire right afterwards. It is very overpowered there. But when it comes to alternatives with Abyss Beckoners and Helldusk Boots, if you don't like any of those actions there, Cinder Shoes, whenever you burn an enemy, gain 2 turns of heat, and heat itself, it's kind of like what the Pyro hat does as well, engulfing yourself in fire damage, dealing 1 to 4 damage. But that's the thing too, is with heat, it allows you to fuel yourself for a more powerful attack. But that's the thing too. Do so if you really want to run that small risk. And also an alternative for the gloves, Gemini gloves, Adroit Caster, cantrips targeting foes and allies can target an additional creature. The same target can be chosen twice. It's a nice little bonus for all of your Fireborn cantrip spells. Also, Fireheart, this is a very situational amulet. Fervent Flames, whenever you take fire damage dealt by another creature, you gain 2 turns of heat. Again, going back to the risk and reward of burning yourself for storing up additional potential damage to deal back to the enemy. If you're not a huge fan of that, you can always go with the Spellcrux Amulet of Spell Slot Restoration. Just restore any spell that you might have used. Simple as that. And also, there is Ring of Self-Immolation, setting yourself on fire to gain, yes, even more heat. I know, a lot of this equipment, while it is a nice, cool fire roleplay, it does require a little bit of you to manage how much heat you're willing to give to yourself, or how much damage you're willing to burn yourself and thus dish back. And last but not least, my personal favorite staff for this build is Staff of Spell Power. All around pretty good for most casters out there. With Arcane Enchantment, gain a +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Arcane Battery, alleviate the arcane burden of spellcasting with the power of the staff. The next spell you cast does not cost a spell slot. And yeah, it's a nice little nod to, like, if you want to, like, save up your fire-based spells or support spells, it's really good for long sustained combat. Alright everyone, that has been my in-depth showcase of all 12 levels of Circle of the Wildfire Druid subclass. If you've made it this far into the video, I really want to personally thank you for taking the time to check out this class and also to give it a go yourself. Also, I do plan on making multi-class builds with this specific subclass just to see what kind of synergies would really pair well. If you have suggestions for character builds or multi-classing, please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a really nice, genuine, in-depth discussion going as well for that. And also, for all of the new viewers out there, if you're fans of Baldurs Gate and DND builds, or if you love talking shop about all the lore and history from Elder Scrolls, Warhammer Fantasy, I would love to have you join us on those adventures, friends. A little bit of housekeeping aside, I do plan on interspersing more campaign videos from Total War Warhammer in between the character build videos, just because these build videos do take a lot of time to edit and also to push out, but I do promise to make more character build videos and to really just try to balance out in between both Warhammer and Baldur's Gate. But again, thank you to everyone new, returning. No matter how long you have been watching me, I really appreciate you being here and giving me your time. And I'd love to have you join us for the next few episodes. If you would like to hit the subscribe, like, and bell icon notifications, that would really mean the world to me as a creator. Until next time, friends, take care and farewell.